it seems like only 5 minutes ago, Marc Marquez was the best rider on the grid, the standout best rider on the grid, winning easily, winning everything, winning from lights to flag, winning year by year, fending off challenger old and new, winning everything, except in 2015 when he kept crashing into Valentino Rossi.
Brakes going into turn 5. Rossi leads contact there between Marquez and Rossi. Marquez is down! Marc Marquez has crashed out.
Just to put all that winning into context, here are the headline stats on Marc Marquez in his winning period from 2013 to 2019. So he wins his second ever Premier Class race, and he's the youngest ever to win in the Premier Class at 20 years, 63 days. He's the first rookie to win 4 races back-to-back in the Premier Class. He's got the most wins, poles, podiums, and points as a rookie in the Premier Class with 6 wins, 9 poles, 16 podiums, and 334 points in 2013. And then, of course, he wins in 2013, wins his rookie season, and is the youngest ever to win the World Championship in the Premier Class at 20 years old, 266 days. Then he goes on to win 6 titles out of the next 7 years, except for 2015, when he was crashing into Valentino Rossi, and is the youngest rider to win 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 titles. And obviously the youngest rider, and also the youngest rider to win back-to-back championships in 2013, 2014 in the Premier Class at 21 years old, 237 days. So obviously 2013 was a breakout year, but 2014 was when he exploded and obviously won everything. He won, so 2014, most races to win in a single season in the Premier Class ever with 13, and the youngest rider to ever win 11 in a season. He wins the most consecutive race wins in the Premier Class with 10. So 10 in a row and the first 10. And that's in the MotoGP era. So he's actually tied for 10 consecutive race wins ever, which is the most, which he shares with Agostini and Doohan. Youngest rider to win 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races back-to-back in the Premier Class. And the only rider to claim 13 pole positions in a single season in the Premier Class. That's 2014. And then to sort of top and tail his winning period, 2019, most podium finishes in a single season with 18, which I believe is every race except for one. In fact, he was first or second in every single race except America when he crashed out of the lead on his own. 2019 as well, highest points in a single season in the Premier Class, 420. And that's 100. The biggest title winning margin, 151 points, which is, off the top of my head, 6 full race wins plus a point. And this is with the point system that we have now, which existed since 1993. So that's 25 years of being able to accrue that number of points, plus or minus the years where there were less races. So obviously there are more races now than there used to be. But this is before the sprint era. So now the most points ever in a season is Bagnaia from last season with 467 points, including sprints, of course. So this is a time, 2019 and in the years preceding, when the thought of Marc Marquez being beaten didn't exist. And 2020, or what transpired in 2020, just wasn't in our minds at all. So where does all this winning put him all-time amongst the greats? So of course he's third all-time in Premier Class Championships, behind Agostini with 8 and Rossi with 7. And of course Agostini's championships are in the 50s and 60s. So he's second all-time in MotoGP era by 1 championship. And you'd think he could have won more. Obviously, potentially could have won 2015. Nearly did. And you would certainly think he could have won 2020 over Mir and Quartararo and everyone else if it wasn't for that big injury. He's third all-time wins in the Premier Class behind Rossi with 89 and Agostini with 68, and Marc has 59. So could he be second all-time wins in the Premier Class? Maybe. He'd have to win 10 more. It's not impossible. He is fourth all-time podiums in the Premier Class. Rossi 199. Can you believe he didn't get 200? Lorenzo 114, Pedrosa 112, Marc 104. So if you're wondering why Pedrosa is considered one of the greatest riders ever, even though he never won a championship. 112 podiums, third all-time. Can Marc beat Pedrosa in all-time podiums? Probably. He only needs 9 more to be third all-time. And could he beat Lorenzo? Yes, probably. Also for second all-time. Will he beat Rossi? I doubt it. 199. He's got to almost double his podium count. Considering how many he won, or how many podiums he's got already, that seems unfathomable. And actually, it shows you how consistent Rossi was and how good he was even later into his career. And Marc has most pole positions in the Premier class ever at 62, ahead of Doohan, Rossi, Lorenzo and Stoner. So he's an all-time great. And all this feels like it was 5 minutes ago, but it was actually 5 years ago. And since then, of course, there's the big injury in 2020, the big arm and shoulder injury at the start of 2020, followed by multiple surgeries. And then, if you remember, the double vision concussion episodes, both of which, the arm, shoulder injury and the concussion episodes, were potentially career-ending. So it's a brilliant thing that he is riding again. And after that, he actually came back, won a couple more races, and then had a couple of more big crashes. And obviously, combining that, while that's going on, Honda are on their way down, or relative to Ducati at least, they're getting slower, and now we're kind of in this V4 engine format, big aero era that Honda haven't optimized. So a combination of all those things, and suddenly here we are in 2024 asking this question: is Marc Marquez still as good as he was? And maybe the second question, the follow-up question, and the question maybe we were asking 5 years ago, is could he equal Rossi's 7th world title in the Premier class? Here's the thing that made Marc Marquez great. Obviously, he has incredible God-given talent and work ethic, fitness, the team around him, all that stuff. But I think, for me, the thing that's his standout quality is confidence. Pushing to the limit every corner, every lap, every session, and mostly staying on. Basically, every time you brake late and make the apex and you're on the edge of control, you make it stick, you make the move, you build confidence. And obviously, he had this nailed since he came into the class in 2013. But over the last 4 years, thanks to the injuries, thanks to the weakness caused by the injuries, time off the bike, and if we're honest, the feedback he was getting from the Honda, the connection he had with it, being able to find the limit wasn't there. So that confidence has faded thanks to those factors. And the question is, can he get it back? For me, I think he is as skilled as he was. So is he theoretically as good as he was? Yes. Can he find the limit on the Ducati? That's the question. He'll just need to adjust to that. And I think if he makes the mental shift to know exactly where the limit is on the Ducati, he can win again. And the chances are he will, but he hasn't yet. That, of course, played out this weekend just gone at the Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas, at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, for round 3 of the 2024 FIM World Championship, when Marc Marquez crashed out of the lead on lap 11. Now, my initial take on this is, as I said, he hasn't got the confidence on the Ducati yet. He doesn't know exactly where the limit is. And he really wanted to beat Acosta, the up-and-coming young Spanish rider. So basically, he charges past, goes a bit too hard. Marc Marquez on the limit, goes down. And you can see when he comes into the hairpin before the back straight, he's coming at a strange angle. He's coming a bit like defensive, which it felt like he didn't need to do. So it felt maybe like a bit of a desperate attempt to keep Acosta behind him. That was my initial take. However, I'm not sure that actually was the case, as Marquez, after the race, stated that he put the crash down to a brake issue. So Autosport.com says Marquez crashed out going into turn 11 just moments after coming past Pedro Acosta at turn 1. So he's going into turn 11, crashed into turn 11, which he said was down to an issue with his front brake that meant, quote, nobody was there, end quote, when he grabbed the lever. Sort of a literal translation from Spanish, of course, meaning nothing happened when he pulled the brake lever. There was no pressure. So he goes to pull it again. And obviously, in that time between releasing the brake and pulling it again, he's probably moved 30 meters down the road. He's coming in way too hot, squeezes the brake, goes down on the front. And Marquez says, disappointing, especially because I was feeling good, I was feeling hard, strong. So it's not necessarily that he didn't have the confidence and that he wasn't feeling good, because he just said he was feeling good. Perhaps it was this unexpected brake issue. So before I read that, I had this moment down as a changing of the guard moment between Marc and Acosta. Obviously, Viñales, another Spanish rider, wins the race. We'll get on to him. And there are other Spanish riders coming through in the last few years, Rins, Mir, Martin, etc. But no one's quite come into the championship like Pedro has this year, and also in the same way that Marc did in 2013. And Pedro's career up until now is somewhat similar to Marc. So he wins Moto3, and actually Pedro does it in his first attempt. It took Marc a couple of goes, I believe. Then he has 1 year in MotoGP, Moto2. And then he wins second go in Moto2, and he comes into MotoGP super young. He's 19, off the Moto2 World Championship. So their careers are somewhat parallel up until now. And then he's quick straight away. So if you look at most of the other rookies and young riders, to be on the podium in your first year is a big, big ask. And obviously the expectation wasn't there for Pedro on the gas, because that's kind of an unknown quantity, that bike. We don't know if they've got the full KTM spec, if they can match the Ducatis and the Aprilias. But here he is, fighting for podiums and wins. So yeah, I read it as a change in the guard moment, because Pedro has what Marc had, which is confidence. And you can see it in his riding. You can see the movement under braking, the bike swapping, but juxtaposed with the control, the ability to make the apex, the ability to make clean moves, minimal contact. And that is very, very similar to exactly what Marc was doing in 2013 and in the years afterwards. And also, Pedro is not under big pressure because it's his first year. He's getting used to the bike. Not big expectations, being on the gas, and obviously when you compare to his teammate Augusto Fernandez, you can see what an incredible job he's doing. So motorsportmagazine.com says, after the race in Qatar, a journalist asked Acosta if he'll be able to handle the hype and pressure of the media and the fans. Acosta said this: in the end, what does it mean? Nothing, he shrugged. Microphones, cameras, people talking to you. You decide if you want to listen or not. Brilliant from Acosta. Best response. So he's not feeling the pressure. He's got the confidence. But I don't think this is the changing the guard moment. After hearing about Marc's brake issue, I wouldn't call it the moment. But I think the process has begun. He's clearly here to stay, Acosta. And Marc is obviously at the tail end of his career. Maybe he's got 5-10 more years, Rossi-esque, left to go. But can he repeat the number of wins he's got up until now? Probably not. So the process has begun, and let's see what the rest of the year holds in that regard. Meanwhile, Maverick Viñales takes a historic win. First time he's won since the opening round at Qatar in 2021 on a Yamaha. And he's obviously the first rider in the MotoGP era to win on 3 manufacturers. So is he here to stay? I think it's hard to make that case that he's here to stay for the championship this year, because he hasn't proven that or shown that really at all in previous years. We'll see in a minute what the championship looked like last year compared to this year in that regard. So I think it's too early to say for the championship. However, this is by far the best he's ever been. The sprint and a win in one weekend. I think fastest lap and maximum confidence, and coming through the pack to win. So I think if he's made a mental shift, obviously there's work on the bike and there's all things that go into it, but if he's made a mental shift and he's got confidence, and that's what's enabled him to win, as opposed to lack of confidence from other riders or issues with other riders, and a one-off track scenario that benefits him, then I think he could be here to stay, and we'll find out very shortly. All right, on to championship check. We have 2024 after round 3. Jorge Martin on the Pramac Racing Ducati in the lead with 80 points. Enea Bastianini, 59 points, second place. Maverick Viñales, third with 56 points. Acosta, Bagnaia, Binder, Aleix Espargaro, Marc Marquez, Di Giannantonio, and Jack Miller in the top 10. Of course, all of these guys are still in with the shot of the championship, still mathematically possible. But you would be looking at the top 8 probably to make a run for it. So after that historic win, Maverick Viñales finds himself 3rd in the 24 championship. Guess who was 3rd this time last year after 3 rounds in the 2023 World Championship? It was Alex Rins. And we know what happened to Alex Rins. Unfortunately, he finished 19th in the championship. So being 3rd at this point doesn't look great for Viñales. Obviously, we don't expect him to. Rins got injured. He's out for a number of races, at least 5 races. And he had a somewhat anomalous win at Cota last year. So that's what 3rd in the championship last year looked like. At this point in the championship last year, Marco Bezzecchi was in the lead with 64 points after a breakout start. And so Martin now in the lead with 80 points. It's a more dominant lead at this point. Probably because of the issues Viñales had, putting him 5th, a whole race win behind Martin. And last year at this point, Martin was 10th in the championship with only 29 points because he had a bit of a shocker to start. He retired in Portugal, 5th in Argentina, and retired in America. So he's turned his season start around. That would put him by far in the lead, 80 points. But Bagnaia in 5th with 50 points, that would put him 3rd last year. So overall, well within reach. And the top 5 looking pretty good. So that's Martin, Bastianini, Viñales, Acosta, Bagnaia. Moto2 Championship check looks like this. We've got Garcia, Roberts, Lopez, Canet, Ogura, Gonzalez, Aldeguer, Ramirez, Bautas, and Vietti, top 10. Garcia with a breakout win in the States on the Empty Helmets MSI bike. Looking great. In the championship lead by 2 points behind Joe Roberts. Out of America, Lopez, Canet, Ogura. And in Moto3, the championship looks like this. Holgado, Alonso, Kelso. Surprise entry in 3rd place for Kelso. Ortola, Suzuki, Vaya, Rueda, Piqueras, Esteban, and Nepa. Alonso looking in 2nd place, 2 points out of the championship. Looking very good. Looking couple of clutch rides, especially the first round. And obviously, if I can just find it, taking the win in America by 5 seconds over Holgado. So those two looking pretty good at the top of those 2 championships. Update on British riders. Obviously, no current British riders in MotoGP since the departure of Cal Crutchlow. We've got Jake Dixon in 27th in the Moto2 Championship, which is arbitrary because he's got no points, and we'll get on to why that is in a minute. Brits in Moto3, we've got Scott Ogden with 4 points in 19th place, and he was riding very well before crashing out of the most recent Grand Prix. Josh Watley, again, arbitrarily in 25th place with no points on the board as of yet, rooting for those guys. Okay, injury update on all riders across the 3 championships. Brad Binder, obviously injured, and we found out this weekend after a practice crash. Motorcyclesports.net says, Brad Binder is not in full physical condition during the break. In recent weeks, the Red Bull KTM rider injured himself while training in motocross, which is causing him some difficulties on the Austin circuit. The South African revealed at the end of Saturday that he fractured a bone in his foot without specifying which one. Quote, I crashed riding motocross a couple of weeks ago and fractured a bone in my foot, so it doesn't feel the best when I ride for sure. The expectation was that the injury wouldn't be as problematic as it is, but Binder admitted, quote, I expected it to be less of an issue. That's why I kind of tried to carry on, but especially here with all these bumps, it's a bit of a pain. Massively hindering Brad Binder's results on the weekend. And he refrained to comment much on social media, just saying, difficult first day in Cota. Tomorrow we'll find out what's missing to finish the day off strong. They didn't find out because it was his leg, which is broken. Hopefully he bounces back from that pretty soon, but he's still in the championship. He is still one of the favourites. He's not out. Meanwhile, in Moto2, Jake Dixon suffered a big crash on the opening weekend. Crash.net says, Jake Dixon suffered his crash during the Moto2 practice session on Saturday at Cota. Hospitalised immediately after the crash, Dixon suffered an injury to his lungs and has been unable to fly home. And on his social media, Jake posted, I'm okay. It's been a tough couple of days, but I'm okay. A huge thanks to Shui Europe and Revit Racing for the protection. It hurt not to be on the grid for the first race of the season, but my health comes first. I'll remain in Qatar. I'll remain a few days in Qatar as I need some more medical checks. I want to thank the circuit, the hospital, and the championship doctors, and of course my team. So Jake Dixon making a great return after the lung injury in America, and then of course going down. But he is back in action, unfortunately missing those couple of rounds there at the start. Meanwhile in Moto3, the only injured rider currently is David Almansa, who has a triple fracture in his left hand, and we're expecting to see him back this weekend in Spain. And David posted on his social media, not the best way to start the season after the performance we had, but I'm sure we'll come back stronger. He goes over the bars on the last corner in Q1 at Circuit of the Americas. And finally, an update from last year. The previous Moto3 rider, Carlos Tatay, was paralysed in an accident during the 2023 Moto2 European Championship weekend at Portimao when he fell off his bike along the curbs before sliding across the pavement into the tyre barrier, and resulting injuries have forced him to use a wheelchair since. The dark side of the sport being shown there in Carlos Tatay's injury. Carlos says, I was living the life I dreamed of. I was living what I loved. I was going to join the Moto2 World Championship for 3 years, and now being like this is tough. But you have to rebuild yourself and take the positive from every situation. There's no other way to do it, or you'll live completely sunk. It's hard to find positive things, but they exist. That was it for the first episode of the GP James podcast. Make sure you like this video and subscribe for more news and analysis. It won't be one to miss.